Hello Kings, welcome back to the channel today. I'm your host Sanj. And what if I told you that you could build an AI system for any business, be it dropshipping, e-commerce, using any type of data source like a CRM, so think of HubSpot, Salesforce, or even something like Shopify and Wix for customer data, okay? It can answer questions for you, it can answer queries, it can suggest bestsellers, it can give you gift ideas, birthday ideas, you name it, it can handle everything. And what if I told you that this system gets smarter over time, okay? So based on the interactions with users or customers or prospects, this system will actually save the interactions into a database, and then the AI agent will access this database every time and before it responds to a new interaction, okay? So this is a completely new way of using AI agents because I found that most people don't know what to do with them, right? They haven't found a use case. And more importantly, they don't know how to sell it to prospective clients, right? And get paid a retainer, a monthly retainer for this service, okay? So I'm gonna show you exactly how you can build this inside of N8N, and the trigger is going to be Telegram, okay? And this is a super interesting way to do this. It was super fun for me to build it, and I really hope you enjoy it, okay? So before I get started, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and let's get busy. Before I go through the automation, I just wanted to break down the requirements and what's required to build this, okay? So there's basically five steps. And the first is we need to create the Telegram bot using BotFather, okay? This is quite straightforward. It's actually really straightforward compared to something like WhatsApp. Initially, I tried to do this through WhatsApp, but I've had issues, so I switched it over to Telegram, and actually, it's a lot better on Telegram if you want my opinion on this, okay? The second thing we need is a Google Sheet. Now, this is optional. I mean, you could build this with Notion, you can use Airtable, you can even use a client's CRM, okay? Because this is gonna be like a sales system, and it's gonna, handle customer service. It's gonna handle basically any type of question that your potential customer may have, okay? Then the third requirement is we need to configure a Supabase database, okay? And the reason for that is because I built a database into this automation because I want the AI to learn, right? I want it to learn from past, interactions with customers or with prospects, right? So it gets better and better with its responses. And I think that's a good idea because if you are going to sell this to a client, you want to give them the best possible experience that they can have, okay? And you're going to do that by making this system better over time because it's going to learn. The database is going to get bigger, the AI agent is going to get better, and it's just going to be able to troubleshoot or answer any future questions that your client or you may have, okay? The fourth thing is to test to make sure it works, which it does. And then the fifth requirement is, who would buy the system. So I'm going to give you some options, some examples of who I would go to basically sell the system to, okay? I've split the automation into three parts, okay? So the first part is the Telegram trigger, and this will decide whether the input is audio, text, or image, okay? And if it's audio or image, I'm actually using an AI module to basically transcribe the voice and describe the image, okay? Then it plugs into the AI system here, which is the green sticky note. And what this does is this basically plugs into Ask Jeeves, okay? So those of you who are old enough to remember life before Google was popular, we actually had a search engine called Ask Jeeves, and it wasn't very good, right? But it was just kind of, this kind of butler thing, had a nice branding. Compared to, what Google brought to the table, it was kind of night and day. But yeah, the whole butler thing, I thought I'd play on that. And so I created a bot called Jeeves, okay? And what this does is it plugs into Jeeves, and I've given it a system prompt, and obviously I'll go through this and I'll build it with you. It basically has two requirements, okay? The first is it will go into let me zoom in here so you can see it. So it will go into this sheet here, which I've created on Google Sheets. So I've got bestsellers and I've got customer support, okay? They're two separate tabs, and I'll show you that shortly. And this is just an example of how you can use the system, okay? And it's just using dummy data, right? But if this was a production system and you were selling this to a client, you can put anything in here. You can plug in Notion, you can plug in Airtable, you can plug in their CRM, so if they're using HubSpot, Salesforce, whatever, right? You can plug that into here. And what this agent will do is it will basically read the data source, right? It will go into like my bestsellers, and it can pull out information from the bestsellers, right? And if I've got tech support, it can actually go into the tech support sheet, and it can actually update it, and it can actually take information off that, right? To basically support any type of query, okay? Then there's a get memory node here, and this is connected to Supabase. And what that does is I want this system to learn, right? I want it to get better over time, because the more and more inputs you give it, the more and more outputs it should be able to deliver, right? Better high quality outputs, because it's got a context, right? It's got a context because it's got a database with, hundreds, if not thousands of interactions using a Supabase database. And then the AI agent will use that, and it will basically get better and better responding to your prospects or your customers over time, okay? And then the third part of the automation is this here. And what this does is this will then filter it based on voice, text, or image, because each response is going to be different. If it's audio or voice, it will then generate an audio response and send it back into Telegram. And I'll show you this. I'll do a live demonstration. If it's a text response, it will just send just a standard user text message, okay, in Telegram, and then it will update the memory. Okay, so I've created a memory node here back into Supabase. And what that means is that if the AI agent learns something new in an interaction, right? So customers asked a random question, or there's a new customer support issue, or a prospect is asking you something completely unique that you've never been asked before, I want the system to basically capture that information and put it into Supabase, okay? And then the last one is, if it's an image, it will just respond with a standard image response, okay, based on whatever the input's gonna be. Okay, so without further ado, let me test the automation and I'll show you how to build this. So let's go ahead and test this bot and see if it works. Okay, so I'm gonna head over to Telegram. I've got a Telegram bot here, it's obviously called Jeeves, and I've given him a creepy picture. Thank you, Grok. So the way this works is that this would be the input, right? So the input will be inside of a chat. And let's start off with text, okay? So what are your best sellers? Okay, now if this works, it will go through the middle route here, okay? Because it's not audio and it's not an image. Okay, so let's test it. And you can see it's worked. So it's gone through the middle route, and now it's going through the AI agent, which is Ask Jeeves. It's looked at the bestsellers tab inside of the Google Sheet, and I'll show you that shortly once this is done. I just want to show you the output first. It's obviously using the memory buffer, it's using the AI chat model to then formulate a response, okay? And it's obviously gone into get memory, okay? So it's looked at the database inside of Supabase. And the reason it's done that is because I've asked it to do that. In the system prompt that I'll show you later, I'm actually asking the AI agent to go into Supabase, go into the database, before every interaction, to understand what the conversation context might be, right? Like if it's a commonly asked question, then you can use the database, pull out, look at the information that's been stored in there, and then use that to then respond to, right? And these are obviously sales opportunities as well, right? So you can see it's done all that, and then it's gone through a switch here, and it's gone through the middle route, okay? So the middle route is text, the top route is audio, and the bottom route is image, okay? So if I go back into Telegram here, you can see, so I asked, what are your best sellers? So here are some common support. Okay, ignore this one because this has come from the start. It's this one here. So here are some of our best-selling products, okay? It's just that to start the automation. So this has all been pulled off the Google Sheet. Okay, and I'll show you the Google Sheet. So I've put in some random products in here. These are links to Amazon, but this could be any business. It could be physical products. It could be e-commerce, drop shipping. It could be digital. It could be anything that you want to sell or your client sells, right? You can set this up in any way you want. And it's actually quite easy to set this up for clients because they already have these systems in place, right? They're already going to have a CRM, right? If it's a sales kind of outbound sales kind of system, right? Most businesses have sales and CRMs, right? Or it's going to be like a Notion, it's going to be like a Shopify store, something like that, right? You can plug into. So this is the Google Sheet, and I've just created a quick Google Sheet just to show you as an example, right? So this is the bestsellers tab, and it's got product link, product name, product price, product description, product category. And I've just basically copied these off Amazon. I've just gone to Amazon, pulled up a bunch of links here. Now in a production environment, if you're working for your client, you're going to have their client links in here. So this could be Shopify links, it could be Wix, it could be any kind of website, right? And then you have the product name, product price, product description, product category. And if it's a large organization, that sells, it's got 10, 50 employees and it sells, hundreds, if not thousands of products, which is very common, this sheet is going to be huge, right? And you're going to have something like this. The second tab is for customer support, right? So what happens when your customers buy something and there's a problem, right? This system can handle that, right? And it's got, commonly asked problems. You can fill this in again. You can even add to this, right? So through the AI agent. So there's a lot you can do here, okay? And the last thing I want to show you is, I could delete this one because this is the first message that came up when I clicked on start here. So you have to start the bot, right? And then it just comes up with this, which is not relevant. This is what's relevant, right? Because I asked it for the best-selling product. So you can see here that I've created a table, a database inside of Supabase, and it's taken that interaction and it's actually saved it. So this is the interaction, right? Top 10 bestsellers as per the sheet. But I can even ask it more specific questions, right? So I'll do that with the next test. So let's head back over, and now we're going to test voice, okay? I have a 16-year-old son. What gifts can you recommend for him? So now I've done the audio. Let's head over back to the workflow. This time, if it's worked, it should go to the top root here, okay? And then obviously we'll transcribe it, and then we'll see what the output's going to be. So it's now going to sort this based on the filter. It's going to go up here. Now it's in the AI agent. So now it's transcribed the voice that I've left it. And you can see here that it's now generating an audio response. And I'm using AI for this. And now it's going to send the AI response. So let's see if it's worked. Here's the audio.
Here are 3 gift ideas that your 16-year-old son might enjoy. 1. Google Pixel 7. Price, $599. Description: Google's flagship smartphone features an incredible camera and Google Tensor chip.
That's pretty cool, right? There's obviously a lot more. You can make this as descriptive as you want. You can make it less comprehensive. You can make it longer. You can change the voice. You can change it from male to female. There's different types of voice. And I'll show you exactly how all that works, okay? And then the last example I want to show you is an image. Now this has nothing to do with the bestsellers or the customer kind of database that I'm using in this example. I just want to show you that this system can handle images. Okay, so I'm just gonna click an image here. I'm gonna upload this handsome guy just to show you that I can handle that. So let's head over, hit to the automation. Let's just center this. Let's test the workflow. So now it should go to the bottom part of the root here. Okay, and then so now it's going to describe the image. It's going to ask Jeeves for a response. Now this response might not be relevant because it's just a pug, right? And I have nothing in the system to say that it can handle pugs. But I just want to show you what the outputs might look like. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of like a default response, but you kind of get the picture, right? Like, imagine a production environment, right? Like you're working with a client, like an e-commerce client, like a dropshipping client. A customer might, or a prospect might send a picture of a product, like a dress or something, and ask a specific question about that, right? Now, this system can handle that because if you look back to this flow here, right? I'm using an AI module here to basically describe the image, right? And it also, it also can handle captions. If I uploaded this with a caption to say, imagine it's a dress, right? So does this come in like XL, right? Does this come in extra small? Does this come with sleeves, right? This system can handle that, right? You can build a system, you can train the AI, and it will ultimately, save any outputs. So for example, in the conversation, if somebody asks, does this dress come with sleeves, right? Because maybe the description is not clear, or you can't see that in the image, right? This system will actually save that interaction into a database. So next time somebody asks that, it will basically reply back with a more comprehensive response, okay? The other reason as well this is a great system is that it identifies blind spots for clients, right? For people who have businesses, because you might not know that this is a problem. This is an obvious problem, right? Until somebody asks you that, or somebody questions you, or somebody queries that, right? That could be customers, that could be prospects. It doesn't matter because they're shining a light on that blind spot, and this is valuable information, right? Because you can increase sales. You can increase sales by just having a simple response or just identifying those blind spots, okay? So let's move on to the next part and build this puppy together. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create the bot, the Telegram bot, okay? And for that, we need a service called BotFather, okay? So if you haven't got Telegram, if you haven't used it, just download it on your iPhone or Android device. It's completely free. And you want to do a search in the search bar for, if I can spell, BotFather, okay? And you should get this, okay? So this is the BotFather. It's basically the API kind of automation that basically does everything for you. So you can create the bot here, you can create the access token, you can set it up, you can change the name, etc., etc. Okay, so once you've created or triggered the BotFather, right, what you want to do is you can either click on these links here, or you can just type in /new bot, right? So first thing you want to do is you want to create a new bot, right? And then it's going to ask you a few things. So I'm just going to scroll down here because I've already done this, right? And then you're going to have to give it a name. So you can give your name. I gave my bot a name of Jeeves, right? You can call it whatever you want. And then you need to give it a system name. Okay, so the system name has to be whatever you want it to be, but it has to end in _bot. Okay, so I gave mine the _automation_kings_bot. Okay, and what's great about this, when you click on this, you can actually share this with anybody. Then this is how you can sell this in like a production live environment, right? Because you can create a bot for your clients, right, or any client, and you can send this to them, right? So you send the Telegram bot to them, and then you control the backend inside of NA10, okay, and charge them a monthly service for that. That's exactly what you can do, okay? Then once it's done, right, congratulations on your new bot. You'll find it here. This is the link that you share with your clients, right? You can go live with that. You can put some descriptions in there as well, and they can run that. And then basically, this is the access token, okay? So this is the token that you need when you create the credentials inside of NA10, okay? And this is what we need. So if I go back into NA10, if I open this module here, or this node, just gonna bring this up, click on this, and when you create a connection, right? So when you create a new connection, you can call it whatever you want. I've just left that Telegram account. That's the access token, right? And the base is always the same. The base URL is always the same. It's api.telegram.org. And then the endpoint is / whatever we're gonna call, right? And we have a few later, and I'll show you exactly how to build that, okay? So the first thing to do is let's create a new workflow, and then we can start the first part of the automation, which is the inputs. Okay, so we'll build this out first. Okay, so we've created Telegram bot using BotFather. So I'm just gonna check that one off. Okay, and then set up a Google Sheet like the example that I showed you. It doesn't have to be too comprehensive or complicated for this example. Remember, you can actually connect this up to Notion or a CRM that a client or you might use as well, okay? And so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna build the first part of the import here. So let's go over to a new workflow, and we're gonna bring up the first node, which is Telegram, okay? So the trigger here is gonna be on message, okay? And you can obviously set up your Telegram account like I showed you in BotFather. I'm just gonna grab this, just make sure that we've got everything there. Yeah, and this is the message. So the trigger is on as soon as the message arrives into your Telegram bot, okay? And you can rename this to whatever you want. I think I called it Message Jeeves. Okay, so let's call it Message Jeeves. And then we can move on to the next step, okay? So in order to test this and save this, I'm not going to save this because I've already got it, but let's move this out over here because this is quite a long automation, okay? So the next thing you want to do is you want to add a switch, okay? So if I click inside the original, I'll show you what that looks like. And it's just waiting for the fields to load. So basically, we need a switch because we need a system to filter if it's a voice, if it's text, or if it's a photo. That's what the field inside of Telegram is called inside of the output, but it's actually an image, okay? So it's just a simple condition, okay? And this is like a Boolean wrapper. And so all you want to do is you want it in this format, and you want to get it from the Message Jeeves module, right? If you're not sure, just test it. Just test the first step, and you'll see that the first one comes out as, if you're doing voice, it will come out as voice. If you're doing text, you'll see as a text field. And if you're sending a photo, it will come out as a photo field inside of the input here, right, from the previous node. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab this because I've already done it. And then I'll show you what you need to do in terms of the condition. Okay, so this is a switch, like I said. And the first one is going to be, we change this to expression. Make sure it's green. That means it's worked. It's pulled in the correct field from the previous module here. And then you want to change this from string, which is what it is now, to Boolean. Okay, and it needs to be equal to. Okay, and then for this, it's true. Okay, so that's the first one. And then you want to rename the output. So if it is true, right, and actually, let me go up and do this one first. We'll do the voice one first. This is set to photo. Let's just copy this one here, voice, and then I'll change the, if it is true, then I'll change the output to voice. Okay, I'll rename it to voice. And you'll see why, because if I go back to the original, you can see here, if I zoom in, right, you can see that there's three outputs here. There's voice, text, and image. And that's because there's three different routes, right? Because of the way this automation is set up to handle the inputs from users or prospects, okay, or customers, right? And it just gives you more options if you want to do it this way, because not everybody is going to send a text message, right? It could be image, it could be voice, it could be a voice memo, whatever, right? And this system can handle it all. So let's go back in here, let's pull up the other fields. Okay, so the first one is voice, the second one is text, and it's green, which means it's worked, it's pulled in the correct dynamic field from the previous node, which is always a good sign whenever you see green inside of NA10. So the first one's voice, second one is going to be this one here, so we're just going to change this to expression. This one's text, so again, remember to change it from string to Boolean, and it's equal to, and this is true. Okay, and then if it's true, then rename the output to, this one's going to be text. Okay, and then the last one is image, so let me just grab that, the code for that. And this one is the same. I mean, you can just rename it's just a dot end on the JSON string, right? So you just take it out. You can do it that way, or you can just copy it. I've already done it, so I'm just going to copy it here. Remember, change this from string to Boolean is equal to, and this is also going to be false. And then we're going to rename the output to, what's happened here? Let me just go back. Just copy this. Go to expression. Change that. Make sure this is set to Boolean. Is equal to, yes it is, true. And then this is one more. Okay, I thought I had this off, but it's okay. I thought I'd toggle this on, but we don't need it. That's fine. And then just change this to, what do I call it? Voice, text, or image, or just give it something, a name that you would understand, right? So voice, text, or image. Okay, and that's just a filter. So based on these three outputs, is then going to dictate where the route will go, right? So let's start with the top here. So we're going to go to this side. So if it is audio, the first thing we need to do is we need to download the audio, okay? So this is just a HTTP request. So let's just bring that up. So we'll do a HTTP request and call this download audio. Okay, and it's a GET request. I'm just going to grab the API from here because I've already got it. So this is just the API, and I'll show you what this means in a sec. We don't need to do anything else. We don't need headers or body because we're getting it from inside of Telegram. Okay, so I'll paste this here and then go to expression. Let's open this up into a bigger window as you can see it. So basically, this is the base API Telegram, api.telegram.org. The bot, which is the name of the service that we're triggering, this is the API key, and then the endpoint is get file, right? And then all you need is a file ID, which is the voice file, the voice.file underscore ID. So when you run that, you'll see that as a field, as a dynamic field. Okay, that's all you need to do. Okay, so once you've downloaded the audio, you need to get the voice file, right? Because this is downloaded, and that's fine. We've got it. We've got the container. We've got the object. But then we need to extract the actual file from there, right? The audio file, because we can't actually put in objects into OpenAI. It's not going to be able to transcribe it, right? We need the actual MP3 file. Okay. So if I go inside of here, I'll get the endpoint. Okay. Again, it's a get method. Okay. So we're just going to create another HTTP request. Let's move this up a bit. So there's enough space, and then it's a HTTP request, like I said, get, and then we're just going to paste this. I'll explain this one as well. So let's change the expression. Let's open up a new window. So now it's a similar API call, but we're not doing a get file because we already got it right in the previous node. So now all we're doing is we've got the bot, we've got the because inside of my Jeeves bot, that's where the actual file's saved, right? The object for the download. So what I'm saying is get the result, the file path, okay? Which is then going to get the audio file, the actual MP3 file, right? So you can call it get MP3, get audio file, whatever, right? I'm just gonna keep it consistent because this is what I've called it. Okay. No, I don't want to do that. What am I doing? Come out of this, and then, or let's just call it get voice. I just want to keep it consistent, right? But again, remember this can be what you can name these to whatever makes sense to you. Okay. So we've downloaded a file, the audio file. We're getting the voice file. So the next thing we can do now is we can actually transcribe the voice. Okay, and for this, I'm using the actual transcription inside of OpenAI, which is a module that we can call. So let's just bring that up. So let's go to OpenAI, and there is a node that says transcribe a recording. You can even translate it as well if you wanted to do something like that, right? If you've got a service, a client that works in multiple countries, you could even transcribe it as well. It'll translate it into a different language, right? So let's click on this one here. Okay, and there's some things I need to grab. I think it's okay. Yeah, this is data, so that's okay. So when you download this audio and you get the file, it'll create like a data binary file. Okay, that's all you need to know. And then once that's created, you don't need to set this up because the input is going to be data, right, from the previous node. Okay, so this one is transcribe audio, right? And that's it. That's all you need to do. It's just transcribe recording. Remember, it's data, and this resource is going to be audio because it's an MP3 file, right? Just remember that. And then we're done here. So before I move on to the next step, which is building out the agent, I'm going to go over here and then do the same again, but this time with the text, so the middle, okay? So first thing you want to do is you want to grab the text. Okay, so this is an edit field node. So let's just create that one. So now remember, this is going to be, let me just go inside of it. Why is it called true? Okay, true. I think it's because I haven't run it. That's why there's no output. But as you can see in the original here, once you run it, there's a voice, right? Root, there's a text, and there's an image root. But you need to run it all. You need to run all three in this build, which I haven't done. But you can see it's here, right? So for the text root, we're just going to add an edit field, and that just makes it easier to use the output from the message Jeeves node. Okay, it's just easier to then basically send this into the AI agent. It's going to be easier for the AI agent to work with this. Okay. So the text, the variable is called text, it's a string, and then we're just going to get a text, the JSON text message, right? So let's just do this, just call it text, and then we're just going to add expression. Let me open this up so you can see it, and then we're just going to paste that in there. And remember, if it's green, it's worked. And then let's just do this one. We'll rename it to get text, okay? And if I go back to the original, come out of this is going to the AI agent, which I'll build next. Okay, so the last root that we need is the image. So the first one, again, is quite similar to the audio. So we need to download the image, we need to get the image file, right? So the first thing I want to do is, let's move this up a bit. And remember to line it up once you're finished. Don't bother doing it now because it's going to change and you're going to add things and it's going to look a bit messy when you build it. But that's also the fun part of it, right? So I'm going to get the API, the endpoint, okay? So again, it's a get. We're getting it from Telegram, which is where it's saved. I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna download or copy this, and then let's just open this up so you can see it. And then remember, if it's green, it's worked. Okay, and this is just a variable, right? It's message.photo. And this is coming from the message Jeeves node, which is the Telegram trigger. Okay, and what do I call this one? Just come here. So again, it's green, so it's worked. You can see it in the output here. All that's working fine. So this one is going to be download image. Okay, and that's it. You don't need any parameters or headers or anything like that. Okay, so now we've got the image. Let me just move this out a bit, space it out so it looks good. We need to get the image. Okay, so again, it's another HTTP request. It's get, and then I'm just gonna get the code, the API endpoint, or the URL from the original. So it's this one here. I'm just wait for it to open, and I'm gonna copy this. Okay, and again, you don't need anything in terms of queries or headers here. Paste that here, make sure it's green in expression, so it means it's worked. And then this one's gonna be get image file, which is what I called it, yeah, get image file. And again, you can call it whatever you want, okay? If it's worked, you'll see something like this. So you see what I was saying earlier about the data. This is a binary file, right? And this is what you want to basically enter into the OpenAI module, right? But there's one problem here, okay? So if you look at the output for the image, right, it's a .jpg extension. It's a .jpg file, right? And that's not going to work, right? For the MIME type, it's not going to work. So this thing here, right? Because OpenAI can only read, like quote unquote read, images that are JPEG, I think PNG, and there's another file format, right? So this is not going to work, this JPG, okay? Which is why I've created this node, right? This code node, right? And basically all it does is it converts the JPG into JPEG, right? So then I can describe it inside of this module here, which is describe image, which is just an OpenAI module, okay? So what this does is it basically takes the binary data, which is the previous node. So if I go back, you see this is binary, right? And if there's binary data is missing, it will just throw up this error, okay? If there is a binary data container, like an image, then it will basically do this MIME type, okay? And it will change it to JPEG. That's all this code means. It's just a simple JSON script, okay? And I'm just gonna copy this. So we're gonna come out here. We're gonna open this. Remember, it's a code. I'm gonna use JavaScript, we're gonna use Python. And then we're gonna run once for all items, as you can see here, because you're gonna have multiple requests come through. Okay, so just remove all this. This is the existing JavaScript. We don't need that. We're gonna paste that in here. And this one, just to kind of make sense, is convert to JPEG. That's all that means, right? We just need to convert the file type. Once it's converted, we can then plug it into the analyze image node inside of ChatGPT. Okay, so if I open that, I'll show you what that looks like. So now this is gonna take the output from the convert to JPEG. And if you look, right, now the MIME type is image.jpg. So if you go to the previous node, it was incompatible. Right, if I go here, the file extension is JPEG, the MIME type is application octet stream. I mean, that's some kind of protocol that Telegram's running on, right? It doesn't matter, you don't need to know what it means. All you need to know is that this MIME type is not gonna work with analyze image. That's all you need to know, okay? So if I now go into here, you see that it's converted and it's acceptable now. The file size, the MIME type is JPEG. Okay, and to set this up, you can just use a default text prompt, which is what's in this image. This is what you'll see when I create the node, and the input type is a binary field, binary file, because that's what it is here, right? And it's called data, right? So this is automatically generated by NA10. I don't have to touch any of this. The only thing I need to do is just connect it up and just select the model, okay? So if I go back into here, let's just bring this up. So this is now OpenAI. Okay, and we're going to use analyze image. Okay, so again, connect it up to your OpenAI account. The model I'm going to use is ChatGPT 4.0 Mini because it works. I mean, it's worth trying out the latest model. Just remember that you're going to use more tokens. It might take longer as well. I don't know what the speed's like on the latest ones, but I'm probably going to wait until 5 comes out, GPT-5, and then I'll test that, right? And you know, we've been told that it uses less tokens, it's faster, and you know, the output, the quality is much better, right? But for this, the 4.0 Mini is absolutely fine. What's in this image is absolutely fine. It's not an image URL. We're going to use the binary type. The input type is going to be binary files, okay? So we're going to change this to binary files, and then remember, it's just data, okay? And then everything else is the same, simplify output. And then once it's done, you'll see this, right? So this image depicts a pug, a small breed, dog breed known for its wrinkled face, short snout, curly tail. So if you remember, I uploaded a pug just to show you that it works, okay? And then we're just gonna change this to binary file. Let's rename this, which is always a good habit. And then we're gonna call this one describe image. Okay, head back to this. So we're up to here now. So if I come out and if I zoom out a little bit, right, and just move this over. So we've done the first part, which is the input. Now we need to connect all this up to the AI agent, okay? So let me just move these up, line these up. And then so now we're gonna do this bit here, which is build the AI system, which is the AI agent. We're gonna set up all these bits, these parts, and we're also gonna set up the Supabase. So now we're gonna build the AI system, which is everything inside the green sticky. And the way this works is that all the three inputs from the voice, the text, and the image will go into an AI agent, okay? And then it will use an open AI chat model. It needs a window buffer because it needs a context window. It's plugged into two sheets here. The first one is bestsellers and the second one is customer support. But like I said, you can plug this into anything you want. I'm just showing you this as an example. And the last node here is the Supabase node. Okay, so I've actually connected up to a database inside of Supabase, and it's I think it's free for like 1,000 rows or something. So you've got plenty of room to test this. Obviously, if you want to expand it, then you will need to go to the pay plan, but everything you need right now is freely available. Okay, so let's head over to the build, and we're just going to add an AI agent node. So let's just bring that up, and this is like the brains of it all. Okay. So I'm going to call this Ask Jeeves because that's what I've called it in the original. So let's rename that. And there's a few things I need to get from here, okay? And I'll explain exactly how this works because there's a couple of system prompts in here. So this is a tools agent, and we're going to define. We've got a prompt here, like a system prompt. Okay, and if the above is an image displaying an issue related to customer support, please refer to the appropriate Google Sheet. Okay, so this is the prompt. If it's anything related to, let me change this. I think there's a mistake here. If the above is an image displaying anything related to whatever the product is, so think of it in a production live environment, like a customer buys something from you or your client, and there's a problem with it, right? They can send that back on the chat. Okay, so we'll grab this first. Okay, and let's head over here. So we're gonna do define below. Okay, and then paste that in here and just make it an expression. Okay, so in this example, it took the text from the describe image node, and then it basically outputted it to this, only because we don't have anything, right, that has the same context. Because if you see this prompt, is basically, if I open this up, if the above image is displaying anything related to the sheet, if I go to the sheet, support sheet, then the output will be contextually relevant, right? It'll be relevant to this. I just wanted to show you with an example that image works, and I just used the pug, right, just to show you that. So that's okay, that's working because we have an output. And then the next thing we need is a system message. Okay, so if I open this up, this one's quite big. Okay, so basically this is the prompt to train the AI agent to train Jeeves. Okay, so basically you're on a helpful AI assistant with memory and knowledge capabilities. You're aware of the current date and time, which can now be accessed using this variable. So that just means the current date time as you see it inside of NA10. Okay, your role is to support users by providing quick, accurate, and friendly responses. You are equipped with access to specific Google Sheets which contain important information. So that's Google Sheets I showed you. The first one is product information. So this one's called bestsellers, right? And again, you can call this whatever you want. You have access to a sheet titled bestsellers, which contains comprehensive information about various products that you sell or the client sells, right? This includes their names, descriptions, and links. So kind of moving on a bit, whenever the user asks or mentions something related to your product offerings, your job is to access the bestseller sheet, refer specifically to product description, right, which is one of the columns. Then it's only recommend products that you see listed in the bestsellers, right, in bestsellers. Because remember, this is a language model, right? So you can search the whole of the internet if you wanted to, right? But obviously that's not relevant to me in this example, because if I don't sell it, if it's not on the bestseller sheet, for this example, then it's no good to me, right? Because if I'm in a live environment, right, I want to, and if my client has, I don't know, 1,000 products, for example, right, inside of their product database or Shopify store or whatever, right, then the question asked has to be relevant to the products that we sell. There's no point talking about something on Amazon that I don't sell, right, or my client doesn't sell. So rules: never disclose that you're accessing or referencing Google Sheets, right, because I want to be professional. Do not mention the sheet name, bestsellers, or any other internal tool. Always speak as though you already know the information. Okay, so this is like showing competency, basically. I want to make sure that the experience is as good as possible. And again, you can put whatever rules you want in there. If there's specific rules for your products or your clients' products, just add it here, okay? The bestseller sheets contains all the links, descriptions, relevant data that you might use to guide or assist, okay? The support issues is the customer support tab, right, inside the same sheet. You also have access to the second sheet named customer support, right, which logs technical issues, customer support problems, solutions, and troubleshooting steps. And again, this could be whatever if you're selling physical, if you're selling digital, it doesn't matter. You just got to put it into the system prompt. Whenever a user brings up a technical issue, complaint, or question related to support, you must instantly access the customer sheet to identify relevant entries or resolutions. I mean, I've put technical issue in there, although my products are kind of mixed. I've got clothes, I've got this, I've got that, I've got furniture, but I also have like a Mac, I've got like a Dyson in there. So I just wanted to cover like all bases, right? But if you only sell like physical products, if you only sell like clothing or digital products, then just adjust this, okay? Do not tell the user you access a sheet. Avoid mentioning that you're accessing past records or external data sources. So external data sources is Supabase, okay? Then memory handling is Supabase get memory. So this is the get memory node that's connected to the AI agent. You have access to Supabase tools for memory retrieval, right? The point of this is to always call the get memory node before generating any response. And that's because, if I'm building this over time, I'm kind of building a brain, right? So I want to make sure that I cover everything. Like if I've had past questions, I've had trending kind of questions, I want to make sure that this experience is the best possible experience for my prospects or my customers, okay? Or my clients' customers. So I just want to make sure that it accesses the memory to make sure that we have that, right? And then what to use for memory, right? Their problems, objections, challenges, key products that they're interested in, key insights about their needs. So again, the product description is very important to this. That's why I've gone in depth. If you have a look at the bestsellers, right? You're better off if you're going to production, working with clients. You're better off putting as much information in here, right? Because that's where it gets it from. Gift ideas, birthdays, wedding relevant details. Again, this is whatever's relevant for your products or services, okay? Never assume context. You must explicitly fetch it from memory before every message, okay? General behavior response guidelines. So add that. Always maintain a friendly, professional, and knowledgeable tone. Do not use language that implies data retrieval, lookups, back. Again, this is just about the personality of the bot, right? And then product link handling rules, right? If a user asks for a product link, you must check the bestseller sheet and retrieve the correct product link from there, okay? If they ask for it. Examples: send me the link to buy the product. Where can I buy the product? After every user message, call the memory node. Use memory and sheet data to generate a personalized, accurate response. Your ultimate goal is to deliver helpful answers, solve user problems seamlessly, and provide product information with clarity, all while making the experience feel natural and intelligent, okay? So this is a big prompt, and I like to spend time in prompts because if you put garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out. But it's worth putting that time in there, okay? So did I copy this? Yes, I did. Okay, so come out this, and then this is gonna be a system message, so it's under options, okay? So here you go to options, system message. Let me bring up an expression actually, and then I'll put a bigger window. Let's remove this, we don't need it. And then that's all in here. And then just make sure that it's something similar to this, right? Depending on the business type. And then that's all well and good. I think that's everything set up here. We don't need anything else. We're just gonna need the chat model, the memory, and the tools, okay? So let's just come out of this. So now we set up the rest of this. So let's come out of this. So now you can see, if I zoom in, you've got chat model, memory, and tool. Okay, so because we're using a chat model, we do need a language. So I'm gonna use OpenAI for this, and 4 mini is absolutely fine. Okay, and before I move on to the next step, you wanna connect all these up into the AI agent, okay? Because that's where we're gonna feed it the information, the inputs. So that's all then connected. For the memory, we're just going to use the Windows, the window memory buffer, and for the context window, I think I set it to 10 or maybe 20. Okay, there's not going to be any lag or anything on this because it's not huge automation, right? But the context window is how many past interactions the model receives as context. If you have a bigger context window, you're generally going to get better output, right? The other tool that you can use to generate better output is upgrade to the latest version of the language model, right? On whatever language model you're using, okay? Then we're going to come out this, and then the next two are going to be the bestsellers and the customer support, okay? So again, create a sheet, something that looks like this, and then we're going to connect that up. So let me just move this out a bit, maybe move this a bit here so I can space it out. And then for this, we're going to use a Google Sheet, okay? And what did I set this up with? This is a read. These both are read get rows, okay? So we're going to use the get rows function operation. The first one is bestsellers, which comes from the bestsellers document, and the sheet is called bestsellers, okay? And we're going to detect, for the data location, we're going to detect it automatically. First empty row, that's it, okay? So get rows, let's just find the right sheet. So it's called bestsellers, which is this one here. And then from the sheet, it's the first tab, right? So it's bestsellers. And you can have as many tabs in here as you want. If you want to do more support, if you want to offer more services, then just update the system prompts and just add more sheets inside of the Google Sheet, okay? The Google document. And remember this, the options, we want to data location on sheet, and then we'll do the first empty row, okay? And that's pretty much it. That's all you need to do. Remember to test it and save it. I'm not gonna do that because I've already got it. And then I'm gonna do another one. So this time we're gonna do a Google Sheet. This time it's get rows. And we're gonna get the same sheet or the same document. But this time we're gonna select the second sheet, okay, which is customer support. So if I go back to the original, you'll see it's set up identical, pretty much identical, right? And you can actually duplicate it, just change the name, customer support, and just change the sheet if you wanted to. Again, we're going to detect it automatically, and it's going to be the first empty row. Okay, so let's add an option, and we're going to, no, that's not it. Data location on sheet automatically, and it's the first empty row. Okay, and then we're going to change this to customer support. Okay, and let's just move this up a bit so you can see it. So now we've done the AI agent, right? So we've got the chat model, language model, we've got the buffer that's set to 20 in the context window, right? The window length. Then we've got the sheet, we've got the bestseller sheet. And then we've got the customer support sheet. And the next node we want is the Supabase. Okay, so I'll show you how to set that up. We're going to get the Supabase tool, and then I'll jump into Supabase and then talk you through that. To build a database, you're going to need to head over to supabase.com and sign up for a free account. Okay, so it'll take you into the dashboard here. I've actually created a couple of projects here already. So you can create an organization. I just created one for the Automation Kings, but again, you can rename it to whatever you want. It doesn't make any difference. And then you want to create a project inside of here. Okay, so the one that I created for the live demo is called N8N Telegram Sales Agent. The one I'm going to use for this, just to show you what else we need to configure inside of Supabase, is going to be the YouTube test. Okay, but just click on new project here and just basically, you know, configure this. I've obviously hit the exceeded amount, but that's fine. I can always delete one. And then you go inside of here, okay, and then what you want to do is head over to table editor, and then you're going to create a new table, okay, and then you can just call this table whatever you want. So I'm just going to call this, let's just call it Telegram Sales Agent. Okay, you want to turn this off, enable row level security, okay. Just turn that off, ignore the pop-up message, and then here you want to basically add two columns, okay. So the first one is going to be memory, okay, and this is going to be a string or text, So variable length character string, that's fine. And then add another one, and we're going to call this one session ID. Okay, and this one is also going to be a text. Okay, and that's all you need there. Okay, save that. And then so this is what you connect to inside of NA10. Hasn't saved. Oh, put a description as the name. Let me just get rid of this. Put that here. Description is optional. You don't need that. And then just save this. So it's now adding the full table. So this is a table that you're going to use when you connect up. Okay. And if you want the API keys, then that's inside of, where is it? Integrations. Was it here? Might be project settings. Data API, enable API. Just make sure that's checked. And then this is the API project API key. Okay, so just copy whatever's in here. This is my API key, and then head over back to NA10. Click on create a new credential, and then this is the base, the host, and then you just put the secret role, the service secret role here, which is just reveal this and then just save it in there. Okay, and then you can call it whatever you want. I've just left it at I think I left it at Supabase. Yeah, Supabase database. That's fine. And then the first option we're going to do, the first node we're going to rename, is going to be the get memory mode. Okay, so let me just bring that up to remind you. And this is going to get all the rows from the database. Okay, so let's just bring this back up. We're going to change this to get memory, to rename that. It's going to be automatic. The sources row create. And we are gonna get rows, but we're gonna get many. Okay, so this one here is get many. Okay, and then for table ID, this is the one I just created, right? The Telegram or whatever. If I go, did I create it? No. So it'll be this one here, basically YouTube test. Okay, if I create a new connection here and obviously connect up with my service role. Okay, but for this one, it was just this one here. So if I go into here, it'll be connected to this one. And so for the table ID, you just go back and just select whatever's in the list. Okay, whatever you've created. Because I'm gonna create this one because that's the one I created. And then you want to select return all because you're gonna have multiple rows inside of the agent here. Let me just go back to the table. This one, and then table editor, and then we want this one. So this is the one I created earlier, right? So this is the one I'm selecting, Telegram sales agent. And so you're gonna have multiple rows here. Okay, so you want to call all of them. So return all. So you don't need to set a limit. And then for the filters, we don't actually need it. Okay, so you can leave that all blank. So what did I select here actually? Just return all. We don't need any filters. Set that to none. And that's it. That's all you want to do. So the next time you run a query inside of Telegram, it's gonna search. It's gonna go to the AI agent. Remember in the prompt, in the service prompt, we told it that we wanted to check the get memory, the database inside of Supabase before you respond to any questions or queries. Okay, so this is the part of that automation. Okay, so that one's done. Just can move that out a little bit, and yeah, that's the AI agent system done. And you can obviously add a sticky note and make it tidier, but I'm just going to leave it as this. And then the last part of the automation is this here. So we're basically now focused. We've done the input, we've done the AI system. Now we're going to focus on the output here. And again, we're going to need another switch because we need to identify, is it voice, text or image, right? So it's got a one on the end because there's two of these, right? You could name them something unique. It's fine. Doesn't matter. And this one will give you the output. So you can see here, there's three outputs, right? Voice, text, image. For this example, I did image, and that's why the image has one item. And then it branched off into the image part of the automation, which is respond to user, okay? So we're gonna build that next. we're on the final stretch. So the first module you want to install is the switch. So it's more or less the same as the first switch that we had here. And we're going to require 3 of these, okay? So one is voice, text, and photo or image, okay? So let's just grab this and change it. So is it voice, text, or image? Rename that. I put 1 on the end because I've already got one, and you can only have 1 unique name for each node. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back to the original. I'm gonna grab this from here. So from Message Jeeves, we're gonna get the voice dynamic module, okay, or dynamic field, sorry. So let's just add this here. So it's expression, and then the equals to is a boolean, it's not a string. Okay, and then we just want a true. Okay, and then for the output, we're just gonna call this voice. And then for the next one, we'll grab this one here. So this is the same again, but now it's the text dynamic field. Okay, so paste that here, change that to expression, and then this needs to be boolean. So let's go to equal to. This is true, and now this one is going to be text. Okay, and then the last one, just the same again, but this time we're going to do it for the photo or the image. The variable is called photo. Okay, so let's just paste that here, change it to expression, change this to boolean equal to true, and then we'll call this one image. Okay, remember to test it and save it. So if you've done it correctly, you're basically going to have 3 outputs here. Okay, so if I just zoom in, you can see here that there's 3 outputs. The first one we'll do is the voice. And so if you go back to the original, we're going to generate an audio response. If they send us a voice memo, we're going to reply with a voice memo. Okay, and that's going to make it really cool. So the first thing we need is an OpenAI module. And we can generate audio because we already have the output, right? So not generate image, generate audio, connect it up to your account. And then for the text, I'm just going to grab it from this one. So just open this one, and then it's just going to be the output, right? The text output. I don't want to do that. I just want to grab this and then paste that here. And then this is where you can change the voice. So you've got a few options here. By all means, test it. See how it goes. I haven't. I'm going to just use the default. So this one is going to be generate audio response. Let's rename that. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I don't think we need anything else in here. Yeah, that one's done. So that's to generate audio response, and then we want to send the audio message. Okay, so next module is going to be a Telegram audio message. So I'm just gonna move this up and space it out a bit. So this one is Telegram. Send an audio file. Okay, for the chat ID, I'm just going to grab it from here because I already have it, but it's from the Jeeves node where it receives the message. And remember, every message has a unique chat ID. Okay, that's what we need for this. Let's change this to expression, and then it is a binary file because the previous node will be a data file. Okay, and so the input binary field is data. So we need to worry about that. And that's it. The only thing I want to do is just change it to send audio message. Send audio, or you can call it send audio response or whatever, right? I'm just going to call it send audio message. Okay, and that's the audio side of it done. Okay, so the next one is the text route. So let me just go back into here. I'll get everything I need in here. So I'll call it reply to user. Just keep everything. So let's bring up another Telegram module. This one's just going to be a send message. There's nothing fancy about this. Send text message. Okay. For the text ID, it's going to be the same text ID field from Message Jeeves. So change this to chat ID here. And then for the text, it's just going to be output, right, from the previous node. So let's just grab that, paste that here. And that's it, yeah. So we just want to save this and call it reply to user. Come out of this, and then let's line this up. Okay, And then for the text node, I've actually added a new create row for Supabase. Okay, and this is the part of the automation where it will basically expand. It will actually get better. So over time, as you've got more results inside of your database here, so as you get more and more rows, the AI will actually get smarter because it will read this database before it responds to the user. Okay, so let's just bring up another Supabase node here. We're going to create a row, connect it up to your API, and then for the table name ID, we're just going to select the one that we've created. So this is a Telegram sales agent. And then for the options here, for the fields, the first one is going to be memory because that's where we're going to save it. So if I go back to the table, this is where we save the text, right? The output from the AI agent, the Ask Jeeves node, which we send back to the user, okay? So let me add a field. And we're just calling one of the fields that we created when we created the table, okay? And then for this, I'm just gonna take the text from the previous node. Okay, so whatever we respond back to the user or the customer with is whatever's gonna go back into here, okay? That's the way we're gonna train the AI, and that's what we're gonna save. And then remember, it's a database, so we need a unique field, which is gonna be session ID in this case. Okay, and each chat has a unique session ID, so we're just gonna, each chat has a unique chat ID, so we're just gonna use that for the session ID, right? Because we know it's for the corresponding chat. So we're gonna paste that in there, change the expression, and then we'll just change this to save to memory, rename that, and then come out of here. And then the last one is going to be respond to user. So this is just the basic text message. Let me just go inside of here. And again, it's gonna take the message chat ID from the message Jeeves node. And then the output is just going to be whatever the output is from the previous voice, text, or image node. Okay, so I'm going to grab this. Let's move this here. So we've got another Telegram. And then we're just going to send a message. Where is it? Text message. Here you go. Connect it up as you would. Paste that here. And then for the text, remember, we're just going to grab it from the previous node. Okay, so whatever the output is here. So let's grab that. Let's save that here. Change that to expression so we can see it. And then we'll just call this one, what do we call it? Respond to user. Rename that, and then that's it. There's nothing else we need to configure inside of here, okay? So let's just come out of this, let's line this up so it looks cool. And then, yeah, you can add a sticky note and you can space out a bit more. And before I wrap up this video, I just want to go back to the Excel drawer. So we've done configuring the Supabase. We know it's tested and it works. And lastly, before I wrap up the video, who would buy the system? So think big here, right? You can think of any type of brand, any type of business, anyone that sells physical products, like a Shopify business, dropshipping business, anybody that sells digital products as well. It doesn't matter, right? The product does not matter because this system can access any type of inventory, database, etc. Okay, so these nodes here with the bestseller and customer support, you can replace this with Notion, Airtable, Shopify, Wix, Magento, whatever, right? Anything that has a public API that you can connect to, you can replace here, okay? And so you can think big here. It can also be a CRM. So if you're working with like a sales type of business, like an outbound sales team, you can actually connect to like the HubSpot or Salesforce or Pipedrive or any type of CRM, right? So thanks for watching. Thanks for making it this far into the video. I really hope you took some value from it. Remember, if you haven't signed up to the channel, please hit subscribe, smash that button because that's going to help me get more subscribers. More support means that I can do more videos and the algorithm will show it to more people, okay? And lastly, before I go, there is a kind of like a bell button. So if you tap that, that will give you a notification every time a new video drops on this channel, okay? So thanks again for sticking around and supporting the Automation Kings, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.